At the heart of anxiety is uncertainty. Research shows that when our brain has 100% certainty on what might happen, even if it is an electric shock, it feels less anxious compared to not knowing what might happen. Think of the times we live in today. We have AI all around, nobody has a real playbook, and there are so many different versions of the future possible. It's true, we feel uncertain and we feel anxious. My guest today is Liz Fosslien. Liz is an expert on human emotions at work. She's the author and illustrator of the best selling books Big Feelings and No Hard Feelings. Liz's work has been showcased on NPR, HBR, TED, Good Morning America, the list goes on. Liz and her co author recently concluded a study on how AI is making humans feel. This episode is a timely conversation with Liz as she unpacks the findings from this study and gives us some vocabulary to think about the different versions of uncertainty we are feeling in these times. My last reflection from this episode: Liz is one of the finest thinkers of our times. But what I've enjoyed even more is who you'll meet. Liz is a kind, humble, and grounded thought leader that I've really enjoyed getting to know. This is AI-isms, human rhythms in a synthetic world. Liz, what a pleasure to have you in this conversation. Thank you so much for being on AI-isms.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Even before we get into the conversation, I want to tell you, you're one of those people in the world, when you feel something and someone else lends you vocabulary to make sense of how you're feeling. You're one of those people who gives it a visual. The work that you do to keep people elevated and back on track and feeling happy is absolutely phenomenal. So thank you. Thank you for that. I've had so many of my Liz moments early in the morning with my coffee. I'm like, yeah. When I turn around, I did come a long way. Yeah, it was exact, but yeah, it was.
That's the nicest compliment. Well, yeah, I really appreciate you saying that and also creating space for conversations like this. I think it's really important.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna go to a slightly more sobering space around
Mhm.
uncertainty. I was thinking a lot about what is a conversation we could have. And oh my God, I think we need a new word instead of uncertainty because the spectrum has become so large in recent times that I did want to chat with you a little bit about that specific human emotion and how the intensity has gone up so much that I feel like they need to invent a new word or a new color or, have a whole other dictionary for it. Um,
Mm.
there's a very interesting, delicate dance between work and roles and careers and shifts and uncertainty. What have you observed?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. We need a new word. I think uncertainty used to mean we aren't sure if this plan will be perfect in a year. And now every week there's some industry shattering update that comes our way. Not to mention we had a pandemic, the wider landscape. Um, what I'm really noticing at work, I think the biggest thing I see is people beating themselves up for feeling so anxious. And there's a lot of research that shows when we make ourselves feel bad about feeling bad, we just feel worse. And so it's not that, you should let anxiety overtake you, but I do think sitting with that is really important to understand what is really driving it, because that reveals what you can do about it to make yourself feel better. I also just, anyone listening to this who is experiencing this, it is so normal to feel anxious in the face of uncertainty. Humans hate uncertainty. There's really interesting research that shows we'd actually rather know for certain that a bad thing is going to happen than have a 50% chance of it happening, which is kind of surprising.
No, it is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And researchers find it's because our brains are really good at preparing and coming up with solutions and recognizing patterns. And so when we have certainty, even if it's bad, we can start to cope. We can start to say, like, I can get through this. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to prepare.
Yeah.
But if there's a 50% chance, or even if there's like 6 different things that could happen, it's much harder because your mind has to zig and zag through all these different plans, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm like, is my job going to change in this way, or is it going to change in this completely other way? That's stressful because now I have 2 times the plans to
Yeah.
make, let alone if I have no idea how it's going
Yeah.
to change.
Yeah.
So I do think an important message for people is there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
It's normal what you're feeling. It's just, and I think seeing it as just a response to stimuli can help us take a step back and give ourselves a little grace.
That's so interesting, especially that research stat. I notice there's lots of lines and boxes moving around in organizations, especially recently. And I think that even with just tech transformation, even before AI transformation, lots of lines and boxes move. And every time there is shuffle, the uncertainty is what hurts people the most, versus the despair that they might feel after knowing the result or where they landed. Do you think, Liz, that in addition to what's happening just at work, people are bringing in what they're experiencing geopolitically and more outside of work into how they are feeling about work?
For sure. Yeah, this is not, I think the uncertainty that we experience is not just about our jobs. It's also about how is the political landscape shifting? What does this mean for my future? What does it mean for my children's future? Um, I'm what comes to mind is just anytime I open social media, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to disengage from the news because I'm
Yeah.
so stressed.
Yeah.
And then I'll do that for a day, and a day later just think, well, now I'm uninformed. So I need to go back and inform myself. And I think even that
Cycle.
tension of like how much information should we ingest, I think this also applies to our jobs, right? Like how much do I need to learn about how everything is changing? Oh, it's so overwhelming, I want to disengage. Oh, I can't disengage, I'm going to fall behind. And so again, it's this push and pull and not really knowing where to settle that is very stressful.
And now comes in AI. I feel like it's taken. This is where I started feeling like we need a new word. But what is the biggest sort of change that you're seeing in just what AI is doing to organizations, and how has the sort of texture of that uncertainty evolved at work?
Oh, I want you to answer the same question after I'm done. I'm so curious. Oh, there's so much. I think the biggest change is there's anxiety around job loss, but there's
Yeah.
something deeper, which is an anxiety around, or it's like a loss of self-worth and identity. And
Mm.
so the thing that for me actually strikes fear in my heart is I think about if AI could ever produce an illustration that looked like I made it, but it was like sharper or wittier, I would have a crisis.
Not gonna
Maybe
happen.
maybe
Not
prepare myself for
not
this.
gonna happen. No.
I
No.
don't know, but I think it's if the tool can do this part of my job, then who am I? And especially people who've been in the workforce for a longer time, what did I spend all this time building? And I think that's yes, it's like losing parts of your job, losing your entire job, but it's really something deeper as well. The other thing that's been really interesting to see, so my co-author Molly Duffy and I surveyed, we sent out a survey to about 60,000 people, and then we analyzed all the results, and it was, how are you feeling about AI? How are you feeling because of AI? And what really came through was that kind of 2 things. One, people feel like they're performing calm at work,
Hmm.
that they're very stressed or very excited, but they just don't really know what to show.
Show.
And
Yeah.
so that's also stressful when we're masking, when we're not able to speak to our true feelings.
Yeah.
And exactly what I described, which is they're feeling all these things at once. So we call this ambivalent anxiety, where they're really anxious about where this might go.
Clarity.
But
Hmm.
then there's also this element of like, oh, I don't have to do this part of my job. I hate it.
Yeah.
Or when you think about the potential of this could cure many forms of diseases, like that's incredible. And so one person described it to me really well, where they said, we're starting to understand the technology, but we don't know the trajectory. And the
Hmm.
technology is pretty cool, but the trajectory, who knows? There's a
Who
lot
knows?
of ways this could go. And so those are kind of the 2 biggest things I see are this like real self worth crisis of what does this mean for who I am as an individual? And then yeah, this like I don't know who to be at work because we're all holding so many emotions and I'm not sure which of those I should show.
It's not a nice place to be though, you
What are
know.
you seeing? Same question to you.
Very similar, very,
Mhm.
very similar, Liz. I think that the world I operate in, I worry about especially early career and late career people. I worry about early career because if you look at any job at a task level, sorry, I had to turn into a consultant for a second. If you look at any job at a task level, the tasks that are getting automated most immediately are early career roles and jobs. So I worry about them because if you don't do some of those things manually, you lose out on the learning. So I think that from an emotion perspective, I worry a lot about what's happening to hope at
Mm,
that early career level. And then I mean, of course, there's all of the flavors of everything that you said across all layers of the organization. But when I look at very senior leaders, I worry about legacy because, you know, so many senior leaders at this point were like, done this for 30 years or 40 years in some instances, and this is my moment to leave a legacy behind. And lo and behold, it's blowing up and everything is changing. And everything I've written and my playbooks, my rules, my methods, everything is up in the air and it's being questioned. And I worry that will they tend to tap out very early? And will
mhm,
we lose the wisdom? I'm not saying that wisdom comes from age, but it
mhm,
does come from experience. It comes from perspective and learnings that they've had the opportunity to have failures
mhm.
or successes. And I worry about losing wisdom. So I worry about hope and wisdom on the opposite ends of the spectrum. But I think that the way you described it is really it's really core because it's to do with my identity and who will I be and what does that mean for me.
Or
So
what will we leave behind too? I mean, I love that framing that I hadn't really thought of as much, but yeah, just if everything changes, if my playbook doesn't matter, if the organization that I built is suddenly the industry is disrupted or some small company eats our lunch, what was it all for?
what did I stand for? Okay. So at this point in the conversation, what I tend to do is I'll make up some hypothetical scenarios,
Mhm,
all to do with uncertainty. And I think we started to get there already a little bit with
mhm.
both our answers. I'm certain that those that are listening, there's every person will fit into one of these scenarios. So there you go, no pressure.
Okay.
Um, I am an early in career employee.
Mhm,
I graduated from a tier one university 18 months back, and I joined a SaaS company. I had an economics major,
mhm,
and my work is to do with research and planning.
mhm.
Um, and it's just been a really nerve-wracking 18 months since I joined this organization because not only is my role in my job getting automated at speed, but there's so much being said about SaaS as an industry in total. I tried to overcome all of this in my own way in my nights and weekends. I downloaded Claude and I started to play with it, and I'm generating things that I thought would be so much better than any other peer, and it would be AI powered. But just yesterday, my boss said to me, "You're producing AI slop."
Huh.
I just feel like there's no winning for me, and I feel really uncertain. Liz, what's your advice?
Well, let me solve that all for you. Um, it's interesting, you know, definitely an early career question, but I hear this from people from all generations.
Yeah.
So I think to start with the uncertainty, the fear of the job being automated away, of not even being able to get a foothold in the workforce, which is something I commonly hear from early grads or early career folks. Um, I think it's really about learning. So the flip side is that I've also heard a lot of leaders say we really want to hire early career people because
Mhm.
they're so adaptable.
Yeah.
And you can kind of plug them in. They haven't been doing things the same way for 1 or 2 decades. They're eager to learn. And so I think actually the, downloading Claude and building things is the right instinct. And that's also what's going to differentiate you.
Mhm.
I think so I would look at like what are the kind of experiences where part of it will be durable so that you can take that into any industry, into any field, because again, a lot of people have hot takes. I don't think any of us really know where this is
No.
going, where we're going to be in 5 years. Um, so things like what are the human skills that will be hard to automate? And especially if you're in a company, asking people with experience and wisdom, like how do you manage a meeting? How do you influence within the organization? I think these are really important learning moments. So I would
Mhm.
say, yes, great to learn the tools,
Yeah.
but also really important to learn the skills. And there's some conversation around the tools that say like, prompt engineering is kind of not a thing anymore. And so it might become that AI is so embedded in everything we do that you don't need to know all the tools
Yeah.
so much. It just becomes the way we work. So I really wouldn't underestimate the power of these human skills and building those. For the slot piece, I, as a manager, have gotten slop too. So I understand the manager's pain. I think this is an opportunity to practice the human side of just talking to your manager and saying, can you give me specific feedback? What was sloppy about this? And to me, this is also an opportunity to learn to manage up.
Yeah.
So what I find is that I had the situation where I asked someone to do something, and what came back was like a wall of 40 pages of AI generated stuff. And, I think one is I can't review that as a manager. So I think some
No.
of it is like AI is actually really good if you put something in there and say, make this concise and ready for an executive or ready for a leader. It's really good at that. So I think thinking about the other person, putting yourself in their shoes and what would be valuable to them. And then also remembering that the reason that you're learning these tools, that you're learning these skills is to help achieve a goal. And I
Mhm.
think that is lost in many AI
Yeah.
transformations is it's just like use AI. And that's where we end up with slop, where it's
Yeah.
like, no, the goal is really deliver better experiences for customers, come up with a really differentiated strategy. And AI can certainly be useful in that. There's many tools to help you get there, but it's not losing sight of the goal. And so if I think
Mhm.
this person were to go back and look at what they generated, what did it do? Like, what does it change for someone? And that
Yeah.
might help you understand why your manager thought it was slop. So I think
Yeah.
it's the human skills, love the instinct to tinker, to learn the tools, but doing so with a clear goal in mind that also your manager is excited about.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to harvest a few AI-isms for our
Oh,
audience right there. So I think the first thing I took away is for everybody that's early in career, it is not a binary answer that everything early in career is getting automated. Liz and I are both definitely hearing from many, many people in many organizations that they're still hiring early career talent. They may be in certain spaces, like cybersecurity is one I hear a lot about. Your point around adaptability, check, check. So certainly there's early career hiring happening. Second AIism that I took away from what you were just talking through, I'll touch on the work slop piece is just reminding yourself what is the goal, what is the outcome that you're going after, and then sort of making a choice. And if needed, ask for feedback, how you can improve it. I'll add a little mini AIism of my own, and that is, I think it's an extension of what you said, Liz, is being very intentional on which task is human first and which task is AI first, right? Like
mm,
when I look at something, uh, back to your second AIism, and there's a reason I flipped the order, is there are some tasks that are so innately human that pumping it through AI will create slop and the quality is going to go down. And so that I think is a little bouquet of AIisms in there. So there you go, early career people. Those are some AIisms for you. Moving on,
mm,
mid career. Um, I have been in the function that I serve in finance for several years, like all my life. I'm told that it's one of those functions that is most automatable. Is that automatable? Can be
anyway.
automated. Can be automated to the greatest extent. Okay, there we go. That's better framing. And I'm feeling really uncertain about what that means for me and what that means for my role and my team and our identity. And I did try to, again, do my nights and weekend because I'm not getting any contextual advice from my organization on what specifically should I learn or practice. And so I tried on my own. But I will be honest with you that some of my peers are showing up so much sharper and so much more AI fluent than me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I feel like I'm experimenting and hitting and trying. I don't have a playbook. What's your advice? How should I think about everything that I've done and I know it's under attack?
Yeah, I think the first is as much as possible to detach from this fear mode. It's really hard to learn when you're afraid, and obviously that's much easier said than done. But I think one thing to try is just to chase curiosity. And that could be just identifying, if your organization isn't giving you clear guidance, which this person is not alone. I see
Yeah,
this all the time.
yeah.
Um, but just trying to say, like, what is one part of my job that is frustrating and that actually it would solve a huge pain point for
Mhm.
me if I could find a solution. So again, it actually goes back to the why.
Yeah.
And so see it more as an opportunity for yourself as opposed to all this pressure of like, I have to learn, but I don't know what to learn and I don't know what to do. The other thing is, this person mentioned seeing peers show up. And I actually think peer learning is so powerful because these are people that have your context, potentially more than leadership or whoever's rolling out the AI transformation. And I personally have found it really valuable. Even as a manager, I will ask my team, like in our team meeting, I say, for 10 minutes at the beginning of the team meeting, one person on the team is going to share something they've used AI to do.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think, just saying like, hey, over lunch, could you show me? Or there's also something called a skills swap, where if there's something you're really good at, you can show them and then they can show you what they're doing. But
Beautiful.
I think just asking is really, really helpful. And then, I think this goes back to the early career conversation too. There's so much unknown, and I feel this myself of the like, with the illustration. I think there are many moments where I think this is going to be automated one day, and what do I do? And that's sort of like the worst possible. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's great for society that now they get all these illustrations, but for
No,
me, worse.
no, you have way too large a community that adores you.
Well, who knows? But I often will say like this is a story that doesn't
Yeah,
need to happen.
yeah.
So I do think especially in the media and on social media, the hottest takes are the ones that get boosted, get engagement. And so taking a step back and saying, like, what is the reality that I'm operating in now?
Mhm.
And how can I learn in this environment? And I do think it's really helpful to separate a little from all these catastrophic futures that we don't really know if that's going to happen.
Yep. Yep. I think that last one is not just an AI-ism, but it's like a life-ism, if you
Yeah.
will, right? Like I don't need to be scared of things that'll never happen. It's in my head. And so
I am like a very creative person or think of myself as one. And, a lot of people, especially when I was writing the second book that talks a lot about uncertainty and anxiety, a lot of folks, when it came to catastrophizing, they would say, it really helps me to imagine what is the worst thing that could happen. And it's
mm,
usually not that bad, and that's comforting. And I'm like, no, I can come up with something so dark and so deeply disturbing that it's like, I'm dead. Like it's really, the worst thing is really bad. And so what I also ask myself now is like, what is the best thing that could happen?
yeah,
And usually neither of those are what's going to happen, but
yeah,
it's useful that we shouldn't just, it's like, what if this technology let me only do the parts of my job that I love to do? That's
yeah,
pretty cool. So I
yeah.
think that's also a useful question to ask ourselves.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so that's certainly an AIism to take away that, let's not build the worst version of the truth, but what's the best version of the truth? I think a couple of others that I took away, I absolutely love the one around peer learning. Like it's okay to just go tell your peer that let's share and exchange. What did you learn? What did we learn? I absolutely think that this whole thing around collective learning when no one knows is just so powerful because you're not going around scanning and looking for content and looking for courses. You're learning from each other. So that was really really powerful. Everybody on the planet is coming through this, tectonic shift, and if your enterprise is not telling you where to go and what to learn, it's perhaps that they're still figuring it out also, and so you're not being singled out there. Okay. All right. Some good mid-career advice there. Let's go to leadership.
Mm.
And I think this goes back to folks that it was their turn to build their legacy. But I am talking to a lot of leaders that are designing AI adoption programs and programs that, make sure that the promise of AI is unleashed all over their organization. There's no playbook. Everybody's trying to figure it out. I think you said it so beautifully, Liz, that if anyone's saying that they know, they probably don't because no one knows, and who knows what's going to happen in 5 years. So I'm one of those leaders, and I've been asked to drive a large transformation end to end that hits every function in the organization, and it's moving the shape and structure of what this organization looks like, and it's going to impact people's day-to-day experience, their lives, their livelihoods.
Mhm.
And I feel a lot of pressure, and yet I don't have a playbook. It's guesswork. And I feel
Mm.
really uncertain about what I'm doing and a huge amount of accountability. How should I think about it, Liz?
Oh, I really, really want to hear your answer to this, given your work. I'm nervous to give advice now. I feel like you're kind of expert here.
No. You
I would
come
say,
at it, you come at it at such a core human level. So I think that together we form a great answer because I come in.
okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, from the emotional side, the biggest mistake that I'm seeing leaders make right now is to pretend like they have it all figured out.
Mm,
Um, people can see through that, you know? And again, like we talked about, no one has it figured out. So I think people in this moment don't need you to have all the answers as a leader. They just want to trust in your decision making and
mhm.
trust that you'll be as transparent as you can. Obviously, there's lots of things you can't be transparent about. And I think some of that is also kind of making or not making promises you can't keep. Um, who knows where the world is going? Um, who knows where roles will evolve? And I think as a leader, you can commit to doing the best for the people that you're able to, given the circumstances,
Yeah.
and figuring out how to support them. And I actually think that goes a lot farther than people might think.
Yeah.
Um, and just like the honesty is really important. I also think that's the most motivating. You can't move people forward if you're not able to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
If you're already 10 steps ahead, they're just like, oh, I don't want to engage with this. So I think that's really important. Um, and then I think when you don't have the answers, it's very clarifying for people if you can articulate the questions that you're trying to answer.
Yeah.
That already creates some kind of clarity. So you know, for one example, I hear a lot of people talk about like, oh, the future is full of generalists, and then others say like, oh, the future is full of specialists, and
No.
nobody knows.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting question, and I actually think people would respond better versus like a hot take to
Yeah.
just someone posing, we don't know. We're going to kind of see how this evolves. And, you know, in the meantime, like, let's invest in these skills. I think there's a lot of comfort and clarity in just the question, and you don't need the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, your turn.
I
What's the
I
what did
love
I
I love those AI-isms that you just shared, just acknowledging that I don't know. And it's okay to not know, and it's okay to ask the right questions, even if you don't know the right answers. I think that's super powerful. What would I say? I think that your second AI-ism, for me, I think that is honestly, Liz, the biggest one. I wish that we invested in human intelligence and emotion just as much as artificial intelligence. Of course, I mean, that's not what a lot of boards and shareholders want, but I do think that being a lot more intentional around taking care of people and how they come through, whether they stay with you or they go to the next place, and what can you do responsibly to reskill them, upskill them, help them with connections, and try to create an environment where we look at this moment not just in the silos of our own organization, but just thinking that I'm a leader and I'm responsible for the workforce that comes through my walls. And I'm responsible for them in some way, even after they go to the other side to some other organization. I think that'll just create a much more human workforce for the future, as against the lack of stewardship a lot of people are feeling. So
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
love that answer. Yeah.
All right, I will stop throwing scenarios at you and harvesting AI-isms. Liz, I have to ask you to do this because you have such a gift, and it's not getting automated with AI anytime soon.
Who knows?
Um, but if you had to pick, just based on our conversation, one of your illustrations that sort of summarized how you're feeling about this AI moment, which one would you pick? And you're welcome to share your screen, or we can.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hold on. Do you want me to pull it up? I can.
Sure, if you
Okay.
can.
Great. Sorry. Didn't have this ready. I will pick. Give me 1 second.
I'm gonna guess what you're gonna pick. And
Oh,
then
okay. What's your guess?
I think you're gonna pick the spider chart.
Oh, that's actually not the one. I do love that
Oh,
one. Anytime I see a really well done chart, I just have to, you know, find my own way to spoof it. I'm actually going to pick this one. Can you see the?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, this I think speaks to what I
Yes.
mentioned. Yeah, about ambivalent anxiety. And I think what's so unique about this moment is like I feel that, I've studied emotions at work for a decade, and I've always thought I had somewhat of a sense of a pulse on how people were feeling. And even with polarization, it was like, well, this group feels like this, and that group feels like this.
Hmm.
And now I think anytime I talk to people about AI, honestly, they just have so many different feelings. And I think that's really unusual, right? That the same person is like, I love this thing. It's so cool. I'm so scared it's going to end humanity. Like these are really extreme emotions for one
Yeah.
single person to have.
Yeah.
And so that was what inspired this illustration. And I also think that that's, even as we talk about AI transformations, like it's really important to know that, to
Yeah.
understand and kind of like confront that reality that
Yeah.
this is very emotionally nuanced for folks. And I think it's just kind of like a relief to hear when other people admit that as well. So that was just trying to normalize this is a moment where there's a lot of feelings.
What a treat. I usually have one of your illustrations to look at with my morning coffee, and I don't have the Liz walkthrough. There we go, everybody. We got an illustration and the voiceover. What I like the most about that picture, of course, it brings a lot of what we are feeling to life and what we talked about around uncertainty and anxious uncertainty that we talked about today. But I like that it's a swing. And I think it's really important to remember, whichever one you're feeling, that at the end of the day, I'm either all the way in the back or all the way in the front, but I'm going to come back. There's going to be
Wow.
equilibrium.
You
And
so much more meaning to it. I love that.
I'll get there eventually. This is just that moment where I have momentum, and I'm going to find my equilibrium. All right. Okay. Liz, thank you so much for such a great conversation. One last question before I let you go. Um, you're probably one of the biggest givers, if you will, with your illustrations, your books, and even conversations like this, that you're helping everybody think through their emotions and process them. How are you processing your emotions as you come through this time?
Mm. Well, first, I also appreciate this conversation. So thank you for giving it to me. I mentioned this to you earlier, but someone recently said to me, it's really important to make space to remember who you are. And I think, especially in uncertain times, it's so easy to look forward or to focus on all the things that you're not, or where you feel like you're not enough, or you don't know anything,
Mhm.
or to try to, as a fear response, like fit yourself into a mold or try to like be like someone else who seems to be doing well.
Yep.
And, the thing that AI cannot replicate is just like who we are as individuals. I have tried to make a Liz bot agent and it's not very good. And so I think like taking the time to just let your mind wander or to
Mhm.
focus on something creative and not bring technology away, into it, put your phone away. I actually think that's more important than ever, given like the onslaught of
Yes.
technology that we're all facing. And I think that actually allows us to come back and do better work with AI if we have a sense again of the purpose and what motivates us.
Beautifully said. Let's not forget who we are because that's going to keep us centered and grounded and feeling absolutely in equilibrium sitting on our swing. Let's go with that. Thank you so much, Liz. Appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That was Liz Fosslien. What did you think of that episode and what were your AI-isms? Here are a few that I took away. One, uncertainty is here to stay. As each of these models develop and get smarter, what that means for us and our day-to-day rhythms is going to remain uncertain for a while. So it's up to us on how we cope with them. The other AI-ism I took away was this whole notion of two opposing emotions coexisting in our brain. Another thing that I believe is here to stay. Ambivalent anxiety, Liz's example, is a great one. Feeling anxious and excited at the same time. There are similar combinations of fear and hope, win and loss, confident and insecure. Those pairs might actually remain inside many of us. It's all about how we cope with them. This is AI-isms, human rhythms in a synthetic world. I'll see you next time.